Greetings. My name is End. Today, I'm going to be starting something a little different. This is something I've wanted to do for a while. But recently, I stumbled upon a certain map of a certain country, and I was like, wait a second. I live in that country. In fact, I was born in that country. And wouldn't it be kind of a cool idea to start a sort of survival let's play, but in the country that I was born in? In fact, kind of roughly, the location that I was born in too. I managed to find the sort of rough location of where I was born. Obviously not on the grass, but this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea. I've grown up watching YouTubers, especially Minecraft YouTubers. I've streamed myself for about 5 years on and off on Twitch and on YouTube a couple of times, but I kind of deleted the VODs. But the thing is, deep down, I've actually always wanted to do something like this, like super casual, just playing Minecraft, just talking about things, if it be myself or stuff I've experienced or things I've learned or, I don't know, interesting stuff. But just in general, I just wanted some sort of outlet where I could just talk and spend just a bit of time playing one of my favorite games of all time. But you may also notice, looking at I say, speaking into the future, the length of this video. Well, I was thinking about, hey, a lot of YouTubers sort of talk about how, you gotta make things easy and whatever is the most frictionless thing possible, right, for you to make videos, that is. And I was like, okay, well, the problem I have, even though I'm a bit of a tryhard in terms of learning different things, I'm really not very good at video editing. And I don't necessarily have the spare money to pay someone. So I was like, you know what? I see people do this sometimes, and I know that there are some people in the audience that do actually like it, especially if the YouTuber can continue talking and being entertaining or however, but just completely unedited. So I'm going to do my best to, not not have empty air or empty, whatever that saying is, empty space, empty air. And I'm actually going to try to, talk about some things that are on my mind. I've got lots of stuff to talk about in terms of pixel art and Minecraft stuff, and even game development. If you are unfamiliar with who I am, which is totally alright, of course, I am a game developer. I've been making games and programming and doing art and everything for, almost 15 years, maybe even longer than that, depending on when you sort of count as like the start. Because I started programming when I was about like 9 years old, and I'm almost 30. So it's been a long road, going from knowing absolutely nothing, as you do, to going, hey, wait a second, I know how to program in C, and do C things. Give me enough time, I might be able to make an operating system. Not that I would necessarily want to, but the idea is that, I guess, you reach a sort of a point, if you try hard enough, where you find yourself able to do things that you thought were impossible. I quite literally tweeted, I remember, I posted this, I remember saying that, like, basically there was no way I was going to learn C, because at the time I was, using GameMaker, and I had used GameMaker for 15 years. That's the thing. Like most of my time in game development was GameMaker. Really, do they still have this? Can I jump? Oh, God, it's really slow. In that time, I probably could have just placed a block, but that's all right. Yeah. So I started programming when I was 9, and my father, because he was the one that sort of he was sort of the catalyst, I guess you could say, because there was this game called Dofus a long time ago, and it was like an online game, and I really liked it, and I asked my dad, I was like, hey, can I play this? And I mean, my parents were not overly restrictive and not overly conservative per se either, but just very just conscious of what we consumed, me and my sisters. And so he was just like, nah, maybe not, especially online games, which honestly, looking back, I'm kind of glad, because I feel like I absolutely would have gotten addicted to certain things, certain games, and like RuneScape I actually didn't really touch until, gosh, much later on, like primary, sort of high school, with like the school computers, and I'd find a way to bypass the the internet filters. But yeah, so he was just like, well, why not just make your own game? And I remember sort of looking at him going like, what are you talking about? I can't make a game. My assumption was, I mean, back then I was young. This is literally when I was like 8 or 9. My assumption was that games were made by highly skilled, old guys who are like speaking to the computers and, spoke a cryptic language and crafted things, and, in fact, many ways, I actually thought that games, in some ways they are, especially old games, although games were the computer, I thought the computer was the game. I didn't understand that the game was a thing that was sort of like a package on the computer, but yeah. Anyway, so from there, basically, my father, he just gave me a whole bunch of options. He brought out a ZX Spectrum. I learned BASIC for a little bit. But eventually one day he was just like, oh, hey, I found something. And I was like, okay. And he said it's this thing called GameMaker, quite a fitting name. But this could be something that you could try. And I was like, okay. And the rest is history, because I was hooked. The first moment I sort of opened it up, this was like GameMaker, oh my gosh, I think it was 6. Oh, excuse the neighbor's dogs. This is like GameMaker 6, and yeah, like I guess I got onto it, I guess a little bit after it was used and sort of expanded as a tool. And I just remember GameMaker 7 coming out, and it was so cool, all the changes that they made. Then GameMaker, was it 8? I can't remember what point they got to until they changed to GameMaker Studio, but yeah, and I literally just used it every day. Every single day, I learned stuff, I played with things, I tried to make things, and yeah, and at some point I do want to properly talk about Nycra, the game that I made, which was sort of the culmination of everything I just sort of talked about. I might do that next episode, I'm not too sure. I don't know how much I want to space these sort of episodes out, but yeah. Yeah, so sort of going back to the format of this Let's Play. So, it's basically just going to be... In fact, I was thinking about how to name it. I might just call it NZ Survival. I know that things like Let's Play or what... I could use terms like that, but in many ways, this is kind of just survival, but just happens to be me talking. So, I thought about maybe phrasing it as like, I don't know, end plays, blah blah, or... I don't quite know. But yeah, I'm gonna dig into the hill here, because it's becoming nighttime and I haven't found sheep, so which is surprising. It's New Zealand and all, but that's all right. Yeah, so the format. I basically just want to, if it be on the weekends or... Actually, it probably will just be the weekends because I work full-time and it's quite busy and there's always things to do and, you know. So I won't have all the free time in the world. That was not the hill that I was expecting. Okay, let's do a little something like that. Yeah, so I was thinking of just basically making them, I'd say once a week could be quite cool. As it is now, it's currently just sort of midday Sunday, which is my Saturday, since time zones. And yeah, so I want to sort of have this outlet where I can talk about things and yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Let's make some doors. Minecraft. This is quite a special game for me because during Nikra's game development and literally just in between the moments that I was playing with GameMaker and making things and everything, I just played this. There was nothing else. I didn't want to play anything else. I have played obviously games before, but as in sort of other games per se, but Minecraft just sort of spoke to me a lot when I was younger in terms of how you sort of play, and just the sheer freedom was something that I really liked. And yeah, I think it's interesting though, because the problem, and I sort of have this with anything really, but talking and doing at the same time is quite hard for me. Oops. Let's go. That. Yeah, so I'll do my best to sort of make this somewhat entertaining. I'm hoping for, I mean, an hour could be quite a nice amount of time, just sort of talking about things. Let's say if you're, I don't know, you're having lunch or dinner or something, you just sort of want some background noise, some creature like me talking about, well, anything really. I got some zombies. Oh. Yeah, so I really want to just sort of actually take this world a bit seriously. I think that's been a problem with me and Minecraft, is that I quite often just don't commit to a world because I don't know, that's always been something that I found hard with Minecraft, is that it's so easy to make another world, that it's hard to justify sort of keeping the one that you have, and I don't know, I was trying to think of all the sort of excuses or reasons to sort of lock one down, but I figured this was actually a really good reason, which is a series where I just sit and I chat and I play and I just commit this to this world, and you know, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. As for the version, this is 1.21.11 pre-release 3. So this is right before the, I think it's Mounts of Mayhem game drop, which I don't know. Mojang, I think they've been doing stuff. They've been doing stuff for a few years now, and some things I agree on. Other things I'm not entirely sure, because I feel part of the problem is that the game is trying to continuously carve out its identity still. At least that's how it feels. And that's totally fine if it was a new game. But I think as a game sort of gets old, and sort of going from the fact that it was a game that, you know, obviously this is from my perspective, but it was a game that was designed to be the ultimate sandbox. Quite literally, it's supposed to be a place where it didn't quite have an identity, and it was sort of a collection of tools and places and little challenges, and that's it. And I think the thing that sort of allowed me to gravitate towards it was the potential, and the sort of the room for imagination, where there weren't necessarily names for things. In fact, I even remember when some of the really early versions came out, because I sort of played back at like InfDev beta 1.123 sort of thing. And I don't know, I quite liked it when there were more generic names for things, I guess. Or names that, I don't know, things like Ghast I found always sort of odd. But then again, I guess maybe maybe still to this day, I'm trying to figure out my feelings towards Minecraft, because it's such a strange game, and I'm sure that there are people who share the sentiment. Also, by the way, I like my brightness on Moody, so I understand it's probably going to be a little too bright, a little too dark for some people, and I apologize, but I really like it when it's dark, because I'm a contrast person. I love contrast, so I want to feel like it's actually dark until I place a light. So this looks pretty empty, actually. This is a little pocket, which is cool. Yeah, so anyway, Minecraft is interesting. I find it a very fascinating game, because it's pretty old, actually, in terms of modern games goes. 15 years, like that's quite a while. That's really not a small amount of time, and yeah, it is hard to sort of craft this no pun intended, identity that has to stay fresh. Because if it's not fresh, then how do you make, how do you keep people interested? How do you... And this is something that I remember asking some fellow friends who also happen to play Minecraft. I sort of asked them about, like, if you got to choose the updates for Minecraft, what would you actually add? And unsurprisingly, the answer is always different. And it always sort of revolves around... I'll leave it there. It always sort of revolves around what they see in Minecraft and what they want. For example, I have a friend who's very into redstone, and he would just say, I would just want to add all this redstone stuff. That'd be so cool. Make it more... how do you describe it? The Rube Goldberg machines, He's like, whoa. That was a delayed reaction. I was like, why is that a hole? I don't want that. Yeah, like he said, it's so cool when redstone sort of feels like a Rube Goldberg machine, where you have the Springus hits the grungle and the spindle gyroids and notates onto the spang dingle. Like, it's always fun when you can put together a mechanism that is a bunch of weird bits and bobs and that do something together in a sort of harmonious way. It's great. Like, I love it. But I guess that's the thing. There's definitely someone who would hear that and go, I don't want that. Like, that's which is totally understandable, because can you do this? No, you can't. Of course you can't. yeah, it's like, well, because that's the thing. Everyone has their own sort of view on Minecraft. And that's why many people regard older versions of Minecraft to be, I guess, superior per se, in the sense that, like, it was simple and the simplicity allowed it to sort of tell its own story. And I think, I don't know, maybe the idea that so much is going to be added, like, okay, for example, I was thinking about this before. I think the vibrant visuals for Java, in the sense of having raycasting or ray marching, ray tracing, whatever correct term it is, I can't remember which one. I say as a graphics programmer. I think it's ray marching. Someone's probably going to correct me in the comments. What I'm saying is, I thought that this would have been added long ago, because it's something that, or at least, having a shader pipeline, because I thought one of the most ultimate things that you can add in such a game would be more options for creativity, for mods, for adding things. Like, for example, I still to this day, and again, someone might have an opinion against this, but I still to this day do not understand why Mojang didn't create their own in-game mod system. So I know that there's like Curse and Curse Forge or whatever, Fabric and Multi-MC, and there's all these tools and everything, and I don't know, I just think that, like, there was definitely this moment when Mojang could have just added something themselves, made it official, made it lightweight, made it flexible. I want to open up here and or maybe it's in the world creation though, I don't know, depending on the mod, I guess. And just have that flexibility. Oh, iron, finally. And I don't know, again, there's that argument of well, that sort of undermines, excuse me, I've got hiccups. That sort of undermines, yeah, like Curse. Curse Forge wouldn't have existed, I guess. But I think it would have been so cool to, and even things like modding. They recently deobfuscated it, but like, imagine if Mojang were like, okay, so just being transparent and just saying, like, if you want to support us, buy Bedrock Edition, buy, like, all the merch, all the toys, go to the movie, like, everything you can Minecraft. But then why not just say, like, we're making the Java version open source? Just straight up. Just open source. You can, have your own branch of it. And if they really can't commit work to it, then just they can have their own path with Bedrock Edition. But then, I don't know, maybe have a group of trusted developers. I'm thinking of, like, Nemon and what's his name? The Ether guy. Like all of these sort of devs who've been around for a very long time with Minecraft, and just saying, okay, now you guys can be the, I guess the managers or contributors or authors of the open source version of Minecraft. And then it would be sort of this, like, democratically sort of voted upon version of Minecraft where people sort of vote for. I mean, there kind of is already in terms of like the bugs and the changes stuff, but sort of voting for everything, voting for what features you want to see, and I don't know. It's. I think that the problem with Mojang and Minecraft is how it sort of fell for the I'm sorry for bringing this up, the capitalistic trap of trying to make everything monetizable and a product and an IP, and I don't know if I'm just like foss-pilled where I just want to see everything open source and built with communities and things like that, but imagine Minecraft with that sort of path where it's just open source, and you know, you see a problem and you're like, wait, I want to see if I can fix that, and you know, you submit a pull request, and then you can feel like you contributed to the stability of this version of Minecraft. And like, why not have the diversion, have the sort of the Mojang cinematic universe version that is like the Minecraft movie and like Bounce of Mayhem, like all these very sort of newer Mojang stuff, but then the Java version, the open source version, would just grow in its own way. And maybe they could be like linked via some like interesting lore. I don't know. Like, the possibilities are quite endless. Now, I know that there are definitely some people who are maybe even getting quite angry at what I'm saying because it's stupid and I'm missing some very sort of fundamental point. And you know, if there is, then please enlighten me. I'm curious, but as I said, I'm just very foss-pilled, and I really like the idea of building things with communities. And I myself, by the way, I'm not speaking. You know, I'm what's the term? Like, I'm actually practicing what I'm preaching, because I have my own projects and I have some really big prospects, and I just want to get it to a point where things are reliable, that I can make some announcements and be like, yeah, I've got this sort of tool or this game or this whatever. Because I don't have a whole lot of spare time these days because of work, but in the weekends or sort of in the evenings when I've got energy, I would love to sort of work towards, as I said, practicing what I've been preaching, and like actually doing something and actually building interesting things, whatever it may be, right? Whoop, hello. Oh, Jesus, that gave me a... I was not expecting you to be that close. Holy moly. Holy moly, that made my heart skip. Oh. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to get too preachy, as I just preached. But it is something that I find quite interesting, so. Yeah, anyway. Something I want to talk about as well, as I mine this coal, is, like, Minecraft textures. This is also something that I've been very heavily invested in over the many years. So I've always loved the idea that you can customize the textures of Minecraft quite easily. It's amazing. I love it. And I've been meaning to, or wanting to actually, make my own complete texture pack. I say that because I have made a texture pack. It's actually on my Patreon if you want to go see it. But it's not complete. For those who have maybe heard of it or who know of what I've made, it's called Cube 7. It's something that I had the idea for quite a while, where basically it was what if Minecraft textures were sort of made in a vacuum, and there was, because the thing that I was curious about was what if someone who is a pixel artist, very talented pixel artist, or however, is basically told to make these textures, but they've never seen Minecraft textures. So you would give them the restrictions, how it's used, how it looks, things like, oh, you know, these ones tile, these ones rotate, like all of these pieces of information, and you just be like, hey, you know, make these textures. And so that was what Cube 7 was. It was supposed to be this, like the sun was a black hole. I also like the idea of sort of renaming things. You actually go into the localization file and you can rename stuff. So I'd rename certain things. Like instead of the purple blocks, I call them, what did I call them? I can't remember what I called them actually. I think it was something to do with red, because I made them red instead of purple. Is that the end of it? Yeah, it is. And yeah, I really liked that idea. I really liked the concept of sort of Minecraft in a vacuum and how would the textures look. And one day I'll maybe come back to it. I'm not sure. It's really hard to justify spending so much time doing pixel art for a thing that, you know, it's not very sustainable. Even not even in a money sort of way, but even just in a time way, because there are so many other things I could be doing that I would probably prefer, especially, you know, programming. I have so many projects in mind. Oh my gosh, just so much to do. I mean, I mentioned before at the start of the video that, like, give me enough time and I'll make an operating system, and like, I'm not joking. I would. I understand how they work now, and I've been learning assembly in my spare time as well, getting more and more familiar with it. Obviously, I know it a little bit, because you kind of have to in the world of C, especially when you use things like Godbolt. You get familiar with assembly and sort of how it comes together, but nothing, you know, real. As in, I've never actually tried to make something proper with assembly. 1 second, need some water. Nice. I realize I don't have filter, so I'm sorry if you don't like the sound of that. Yeah, so I really want to do something interesting one day. But the problem is that assembly... Oh. Nice. Was that it? Strange. Yeah, so assembly, just the thing with me in assembly is that it's so verbose. Well, actually, that's the funny thing. It can be very concise and verbose at the same time. There are certain things that the C language makes very easy, especially with the standard library. Like trying to implement like math functions and things like that. Like, yeah, I can do a square root, I can do a sine and cosine and exponent or log or whatever, right? But making it efficient, that's hard. So actually, what am I doing here? I want to make another pickaxe. Of course, I don't have sticks. Where was I going with that? Can't remember. Trying to not jump around topics too much. I do this sort of unconsciously. But I really want to. I got some ideas. I really want to make something that is essentially the same concept, because I was just talking about like Minecraft in a vacuum. But there are so many other things that you can imagine, you know, quote, in a vacuum. I think the idea has a large amount of potential depending on what topic you're talking about. So one thing in particular that I was thinking about was C, literally the C language in a vacuum, because it's not perfect. I mean, no language is perfect. Like even diehard fans of certain languages, they can say, oh, you know, I don't know, Lua is perfect, or Rust is perfect, or C is perfect, or whatever. Well, they just think it's the best, or whatever. But there will always be things that will rub you the wrong way more than other things. And, like, for example, I think Rust is neat, it's cool. I personally don't, my brain sort of struggles to comprehend it as easy as C does. But C does, whatever. But for example, one thing for me is that I really, really, really like macros. And macros, for those who aren't programmers or who aren't savvy, are basically, it's basically like a way to transform. Is that moss? Oh, cool. Lush Cave. Yeah, macros basically allow you to have compile time code editing. Like, think of it like that. You can sort of make these structures that can evaluate different ways, and because it has things like concatenation and stringify, and you can do some really wacky things with the way that the order in which it evaluates, funky things with arguments and all of that, or at least C-style macros. And the thing that makes macros just unbelievable, because essentially gives you like God mode, is you can quite literally just override. You can override words and terms and anything you want, like C terms. Like if you don't like the keyword int for an integer, you can just, like, yeah, you can make your own type def, but in fact that probably wasn't a good example, because I guess, yeah, it's just the type. So think of the term break. So break is used, for those who don't know, break is used for in scopes. So like if you're in a while loop, or a for loop, or like any sort of scope that has a sort of a jumping nature to it, you can use break, and that will jump out, sort of break out of the scope. Scope being the curly braces that you see in programming. So if you don't like the word break, you're like, oh, that's kind of silly. There is literally nothing stopping you. Of course, if you're in a team, don't do this, but we're talking about personal projects here. There's nothing stopping you from just going, hash define space, literally, and I don't know, skip. Like, for example, I think the word skip is kind of cool for break. Like, skip the rest is kind of how you see it in your mind. Skip the rest. So define space, skip space, and you just type break. So now, whenever you type skip, the compiler turns it into break. And when I first started learning C, and I first looked into, I stumbled upon macros, I was like, what's this define? I remember just sort of sitting there staring at the screen going, really? Like, that's a thing? There's nothing stopping, there's literally nothing stopping me from replacing every single word and symbol and anything with what I want. Obviously, there are certain restrictions of what it could be, because you can't have all, like, there are certain symbols that you can't have as like, I can't go, hash define space exclamation mark, like the symbol, and then some, I don't know, term, whatever, and because when you, certain symbols in C are sort of reserved at a, I guess you could say, a deeper level, where even the define, the macro, just will not allow you to use it. So it's mostly just for like words. I believe the dollar symbol, the S, dollar symbol, that actually can be used. You can literally have that as a symbol for certain things. I saw someone use that for string, which is interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. So any sort of like the string type, or if it be your sort of custom string type, or a like a char pointer sort of thing. So a pointer to chars. Chars, I know some people pronounce it differently. Characters, there you go. So, yeah, I don't know, I find it fascinating that you can basically craft your own language, and that is something that I've been, just again, in my off time, playing around with, because I learned C quite a long time ago now, and I mean, it definitely feels like I basically crammed it into my head in a very short amount of time. But I need to get some food. But yeah, I just really feel like there are certain places that it can be improved upon. There are certain words that just exist purely because of legacy. So things like struct, what's the other one? Struct, I think ints and floats. A lot of these terms that are used in computer programming are made up. They have some background to them. Sometimes they're just like the last name of some guy, like Bool is just Mr. Boolean. And a lot of this just doesn't make a lot of sense to the average person. Doesn't have to, but why can't it? I think the idea is fascinating, because you can essentially turn C into a layman sort of language where you can just program it however you like. And that is sort of like an implementation nightmare, because obviously if you have your whole bunch of macros that transform C into this different language, which I'll get these chickens. Obviously that's not gonna work if someone makes a library that uses a completely different one. So it's, yeah. So what I'm talking about is very niche, and in fact, I've probably been talking about this for too long, because it's quite a abstract, niche topic. But for me, it is very fascinating, because it's like a linguistics sort of conversation as well, about like what words are easier to understand upon initial reading. It's like going back to that like break and skip sort of macro, because there are people that will learn programming for the first time, and you explain to them what skip does, and it would make more sense than break. There's a non-zero chance. I happen to be one of them. And that's just one example, right? There are so many other words. Like, I think there's another one, continue. I find continue very confusing, because when I read continue, my brain is already thinking that computers, as they do, read program code, like from top to the bottom, and... Okay, rabbit. I was not expecting that. Where did I'm lost somehow. I'm in the east. Oh no! Wait, what is this? That's part of the island. don't want to eat raw food. I want to get back to my base. I think it's over here. I think I wandered off too much. I'm still in North Island, so... Oh god, this sucks. Yeah, so I don't know. I find it very interesting. I'm probably going to talk about it a bit more later on, but... there we go. Like, genuinely, I really just think that computers should be a lot more accessible. Like, that's definitely not a bad thing. I think computers, if you own one, it should be something that, yeah, like that you can actually just go, hey, I wanna make a program. It's essentially like I want to talk to my computer, right? That's essentially what you're saying. And I know I hate to bring up this 2-letter acronym, but we're now living in a time of AI, and that idea of I want to talk to my computer is, I guess, becoming more and more real, but that's kind of like a weird abstracted. You're not actually talking to the computer. You're speaking or typing to a computer, and the output is just something that you understand. The computer does not understand. It has no idea what it's actually telling you. And even on a deeper level, I don't want to get down this rabbit hole of AI talk, but it does not understand you. So, and that's because it's not computing. It's not actually doing exactly what you're saying, right? Especially when you're referencing things like how Alan Turing and it's different to programming. And so when I think of programming, I think of you are actually talking to the computer. You are giving it instructions, and it's doing a thing, and it does. This is the thing. This is actually something I mention whenever I'm teaching others programming or however. I say the computer is quite literally down to the operation doing exactly what you tell it to. And this is something to keep in mind when you're programming and you hit sort of some bugs or some problems. Those aren't bugs or problems. They're only bugs or problems to you as a human. The computer is doing exactly what you're telling it to. And this is something that took me a long time to sort of like actually wrap my head around the gravitas of that. It is always doing exactly what you're telling it to. And I think that's actually really quite cool, because when you have this sort of perspective of it, you realize that you can really, like, there's a what am I trying to say? That there's a stronger connection. You're able to do things and perceive things, from the computer and on the computer in ways that you've never before, because you realize that this really is just a simple machine created by us to do exactly what we want. And so everything in Minecraft, everything in all programs that you use, whoever typed those words into the source code, that it's doing exactly that. There is no randomness. Even randomness is not actually random. It's a lot of time it's pseudo-random. I'm pretty sure the only thing that can actually induce non-deterministic behavior, so things you can't expect, is like, I don't know, cosmic rays coming in and flipping a bit and breaking or changing something, which has happened, by the way. That classic Mario, was it speedrun or something? And I just think on that premise itself of, computers doing exactly what you tell them to, should really entice people to take programming a bit more seriously, because it's not all programming, it's like a nerdy... No, you are just talking to the computer. That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. you know, if my dumbass can can figure it out, I really think you can too. And it's such an amazing feeling being able to, whoa, oh, that's not too high. Being able to look at like thousands of lines of code that you hand wrote. You hit F5 or whatever button you've bound to compile it, and it just works. Like, that is sick. That is so cool. And it works the same every single time. You can exhale a sigh of relief because the way that it works, that you see it right now, is permanent. Like, that is so cool to me. And I think that's why I really like low-level languages like C, because you have, like, it's less, like, it's even less obscurity, because the problem with programming languages like, I don't know, Java or GML with GameMaker, or a lot of these higher-level languages, oh, an Amethyst, the problem that they have is, yeah, there's this level of obscurity and abstraction that sort of makes it hard to know exactly, like, what they're doing. Woo! Let's put... and I know that, like, you know, to some extent, because for a lot of it, it is deterministic, and you can rely upon it, but what I'm implying is more about how the code reads to you as a human. Because if a language is really obscure, even if you've been using it for years, it can still catch you off. And I see this with, I guess in my, because I did it professionally and unprofessionally, C++. So modern C++ has a whole bunch of bells and whistles and a whole bunch of things that sort of make it, it makes it more capable, per se, in the idea that you can sort of craft these structures a bit easier because of the language features that C++ has. But the problem is, like, there are so many side effects, and there are so many tiny little oddities and differences and things that happen that you don't expect, and constructors and destructors and stuff that happens in the background that you have to learn. So you as a human can't just read the code and know exactly what's going to happen. You have to learn the language. And I just find that fascinating, because why can't we build a programming language that when you read it from top to bottom, it actually makes sense? And we're talking like the layman. We're talking you grab Joe Schmo off the street and be like, hey, just can you read this and just guess what happens? What do you think it's doing in the context of a computer and a screen or whatever? Or on a terminal, however. And I just think that, you know, because if you showed that's, like, you know, an example of, I don't know, drawing something or string manipulation or something with C, many people will have no idea. They'd be like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what this means. I don't know what that means. And I don't know, this idea, I really think there's something there, and this is something that I've been very slowly sort of picking at over the years, just sort of thinking about, is it actually possible, either as a abstraction sort of layer that might turn C into something that is easier to read and understand, or literally just a whole new language from the ground up. I know that Python, for example, was designed to be readable, but I think there are still some design choices that they made that are a little debatable. And yeah, and even things like Lua, for example, many people swear by how readable it is, but I feel like you can go further. I feel like you can create this synergy between what a computer understands and what a human understands, and really find something that works between them. So, yeah, so I don't know, I might continue talking about this in the next episode. Sorry if this was like really software talking heavy, and apologies if my mic peaked. I just saw it peak just then. We've got 5 minutes more. I want to make this an hour. I'm curious. I'm really curious what others think. This is something that I genuinely feel passionate about, and it's something that I want to explore properly and really get some feedback. Again, I love community. I love the idea of banding together with people for the greater good of something. So it would absolutely be open source. It would be open and just available, and like, dreams. I've got so many dreams of these things. So I'm hoping maybe these Minecraft Let's Play sort of playthrough thingy, I'm hoping these would be a good little outlet to talk about this sort of stuff. And if there are certain things you want me to talk about and you want to hear my opinions on, or however, I was thinking about doing like a section like at the start, and literally just bringing up questions that people have from the previous episode. So if you have a question, if you've made it to the end here, almost the end, and you've got some thoughts, some opinions, I could, if you're like, hey, and what you said was wrong, you can say that, but I will listen to more if you give me a why. So I really love reasons. So if you have some opinion or something you want me to talk about or anything, yeah, like just feel free to just put it in the comments. I don't know if I'll necessarily respond to everything in the written form, but in video form, I think it'd be kind of cool to bring up some of the comments and talk about some things. So that could be cool. I was hoping it was going to be... Wait, did I... No, I've only got 2. I don't have enough for a bed. Yeah. This is quite fun. As I said, I apologize if this was very, odd topics. Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. But I'm just trying to find my footing. I'm trying to figure out, what to talk about, what not to talk about. If you're really sick of certain topics or certain things, and you really want me to sort of focus on, if you want me to focus more on the game and less talking, or however, because I didn't actually do a whole lot here, but I'm just doing what feels right for me, Let's make some gear before we head off. Cool. Yeah, I think I'll probably stop it here. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, if you have any other ideas or things you want me to talk about, put them in the comments. I will try to do it every week. I think it'd be quite cool. I think that'll also give it time to sort of marinate in the comments, to sort of build up a bit, and I can talk about a few things. But at some point I want to talk about Nycra, and I want to talk about myself a bit more. I know that sounds sort of egotistical, but I want to sort of give you guys more information about me, and so you can understand me a bit more. And if you want, of course, this is, you could have absolutely just clicked off this long ago. But otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic day or night, whenever, wherever you are. I wish you well. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.